Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. So in this video I will go over lab 6A. It is about arrays. I will try to I think I will only try to do lab 6A because I don't want to make the video too long. So for the first question, here it says write a program that creates an array that will hold 5 integers. So for these questions, I think for this lab, we'll be creating programs and not methods. So if you remember how to create a program, the first thing you need to do is create a class. So public, I'll do it directly here, but you can first do it in NetBeans and then copy your code on CodeRunner. But here you would first write public class. I will name it labs 6AQ1, and within the class you will have the main method. So public static void main string array. So these brackets, like we said, represents the fact that this is an array. String array arguments and then brackets. This is where you will write your code. The first thing they want you to do is create an array that will hold 5 integers. So the data type should be int. So int, it's an array, so we put the 2 brackets. Give it a name. I will call it numbers, let's say, is equal to new, the new operator, because initially we do not know, here in this sentence we do not know what are the values that need to be assigned. So when you don't know what is the data that you want to store in the array, you will just create an empty array. And to create an empty array, you need to use the new operator, the data type, the square brackets, and the size. Here we want 5 integers, so the size of the array will be 5. Okay, now the next thing is assign the number 3 to the first position in the array. Now first position, like I've mentioned in the explanation, whenever the word position or item is used, you're going to subtract 1 from the number. So here they said the first position, right? So 1 minus 1 is 0. So you're going to use the 0 index. So numbers of 0 should be 3. This is the value you want to store. So 3 will be then stored in the 0 index. Again, they've mentioned first position. Whenever the word position or item is used in the question, you will just subtract 1 from that position. So first position will be 1, so 1 minus 1 is 0. But if they said 0 index, if the word that they use is index, then you can use the normal number. So if it was first index instead of position, you will use here 1. Okay, so it depends on the word that is being used. Now here the next one is assign the number 7 to the second position. Second position, again the word position is used, so you will subtract 1 from 2, which will give you 1, and then that you will use in your code. Numbers of 1 is 7. Assign 6, 4, 8 to the third, fourth, and fifth positions of the array. Now third position will be the second index, and we need to store 6 in that. Fourth position will be the third index, we need to store 4 in that, and fifth position will be the fourth index, and we need to store 8 in that. So we've done all the 4 steps here. Now when complete, the array should contain the numbers 3, 7, 6, 4, 8. So it has 3, 7, 6, 4, 8, correct. Now you need to print the array 1 line per item. So now because this is an array, if you want to access array, if you want to search an array, if you want to print an array, whatever you want to do within the array needs to be done with a loop. Okay, and mostly we use the for loop. So you would say for int index is 0. So you're going to start from the 0 index because the array starts with the 0 index. Index should always be less than numbers, the array numbers dot length. Now notice there is no brackets after length. If you were using the length with the string, with a string object, in that case you would have to put these two brackets. But if you're using an array and you're using the dot length, you don't need to put the round brackets. So it should be less than numbers dot length plus plus index, or index plus plus, it's the same thing in loops. And you just print out system.out.println the numbers array of the index at that in the numbers array. So every time the loop repeats, the value of index changes. It starts from 0 and it goes until the number 4. The first time it's going to be 0, it will print 3. The second time it's 1, it will print 7. Then 2, it will print 6. For 3, it will print 4. And for the index 4, it will print 8. And I think that's about it. Yeah. Check. Okay. That's the first question. For the second question, write a program that declare an array of strings that holds the winners of Bahrain's basketball league for the last 5 years. And these are the winners. Print out all the items in the array. So basically, you will create a program first because the question asks for a program. So public class lab 6AQ2 public static void main string array arguments, and then here you will declare an array of strings. So the data type is string array, let's name it winners, is equal to new string array, and they've said that you need to store the winners of the last 5 years, so we know that the size will be 5. Okay, the next thing is you need to, this will create an empty array, but now in our case we know what are the values for the 5 winners. So instead of creating an empty array, what you could do is you can just directly add the values in the curly brackets. So I will just copy all the names from here so I don't have to type them out. And then just make sure you put the double quotations for each of the values. Okay. So those are your winners. Now, because I've already assigned the values, I do not need to put the new operator or the size. The system will already automatically figure out the size based on the number of elements that are present in the brackets. Now, what you need to do is you need to print out all the items. Again, the same way, you will use a for loop. You will have int index is equal to 0, index is less than, let's say, winners dot length plus plus index, and then you print out the winners one by one. Winners dot length, sorry, not length, winners of index. Okay, and just like I've mentioned, with each index, with each loop repetition, the index will change, and then based on the value of the index, the winner will be printed out. Now the next thing is there's a mistake that has been made in the above list of winning teams. Al Ahli needs to be replaced with Nuwaydrat, and you need to use the indexing to make your change to the array and then print out the new array. So based on the index, you have to change this value with a new value. So what you can do is figure out the index of this value. So this is the 0 index, this is this first index, this is the second, and this is the third. So for the third index, what you can do is just copy the new value and assign it to the third index. And now when you print it out again, so for int index is equal to 0, index is less than winners dot length plus plus index, system dot out dot println winners of index. Now when you click on pre-check, it will show you both the values. So this part is printing the first set of values. Actually, this one is printing the first set of values from the array, and this is printing the second. And you can notice in the first one, the value at the third index is different, and in the second one it's different because we replaced it. When you replace a value in an array at a specific index, the old value is removed and the new value is saved. Okay, and again, you can do that by just taking the specific index and assigning it a value. Now you can't do this. This is wrong. If you try to do this, this is wrong. You can only change elements at a specific index. Okay, so that is the second question. For the third question, write a Java program that will ask a user to enter 10 first names one by one. These should be stored in an array. Use a for loop to read in the data to be stored in the array. In a separate loop, the first 10 names entered should be printed to the screen. So the first thing we will do is create a program. So similarly, same as what we've done before, public class lab 6AQ3. This is the third question. Public static void main string array arguments, and then here you need to create an array that will store 10 first names. Now first names are text. Names basically are text, and in order to store text you need to use string. So string array names is equal to new string array of 10, because we need to store 10 names, and initially now we don't know the names. We're going to read it from the user. So in the beginning we do not know what the names are, and that's why we're going to create an empty string array. So if you want to read something from the user, we know we need to create a scanner object. So scanner input is equal to new scanner system.in, and to use the scanner you need to import java.util.scanner, only because this is a program. If this was a method, then you do not need to import it, but because this is a program, you need to write the import statement. So we have the input, and we have the scanner, and now we can start reading from the user. Now because we're reading 10 names, instead of reading it 10 different times, what you can do is you can put it in a loop. So you can loop through it. You can say for int index is equal to 0, index is less than names dot length, and plus index. You can say names of index is equal to input dot next basically. So what happens, before that you need to prompt also. So you would print system.out.println, and you will say please enter a name. So every time what it's going to do, it's going to print the prompt please enter a name. Whatever the user inputs is stored, and then it's read, and then it is stored in that specific index for the array. So this is how you would take input from the user and store it directly in the array using a loop. And once you're done with that, you need to, in a separate loop, you need to print out all the values that the user gave you. And before that, you need to print this statement. So the array contains is the statement you need to print only once, so you will not put it in a loop. After reading all the inputs from the user, you're just going to print the array contains, and then loop again for int index is equal to 0, index is less than names dot length plus plus index, and here you just print out the values in the array. So names of index. Okay, now that is done. The next part says modify the code from part A. After all the first names have been stored in the array and printed, replace the item 5 and 7 of the array with A and B respectively, then print out the new array to the screen. Again, what they want you to do is basically just replace the 5th item and the 7th item. Again, because it's using the word item, and like I've mentioned, if it uses the word item or position, you need to subtract 1 from the number that they're mentioning. So they're mentioning item 5 will equal to index 4, because 5 minus 1 is 4, and item 7 will equal to index 6. So here you will replace names of 4 is A, and names of 6 is B. And then you have to print out the final result. So again, 4 int index is equal to 0, index is less than names dot length plus plus index system.out.println names of index. And now if you pre-check this, there's something wrong. Oh, I forgot to print the statement again. So after changing the values, you need to print array contains again. Okay, now it's correct. So just remember, item in position, whatever the number that, if they use the word item in position, the number, the index that you're going to use for that is the number, whatever the number that they give you, minus 1. So if it's item 5, the index will be 4. If it's position 7, the index will be 6. Because the only way for you to access values in an array is through index. Okay, so that is done. Now trace the following code. What is the output? So you have an empty array of size 10. So there are 10 blocks in the array, and you're looping through it. You're starting from the 0 index and then you're going until the length. So you're tracing the whole array, and in every item you're storing the multiplied result of the index. So if it is 0, it will start from 0. So 0 times 0 is 0. That's the first thing that is stored. The next time I will be 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So that will be stored in the first index. 2 times 2 is 4. That is stored in the second index. 3 times 3 is 9. So basically it's square, right? You're squaring the index. So it's starting at 1. The last number will be 9, because there are 10 elements, there are 10 spaces or 10 elements in the array, and that means it will start from 0 and at 9. So 9 times 9 will be 81. So your array will start at 0 and it will end at, the loop will start at 0. It will store the value 0, and the last value that it will store in the 9th index will be 81. So the correct answer is this one. Okay, you can even put it in NetBeans, run it and see, but I recommend that you get familiar with looking at the code and predicting the output. That's the best way of learning how to code, to be honest. Okay, so that is done. Trace the code. What is the output? Again, you have empty array. You're starting now at the last index and you're going until the first index, so you're going backwards, and you're you're decrementing the index by 2. So basically you're going to start at a 9, the ninth index. The index, you're going to add it to the number 9, you will add it to the ninth index. Okay, so that's the first one. After 9, you will go back twice. So from 9, you will move to 8, and then from 8, you will move to 7, because you're decrementing twice. So the next number is 7. So 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. That will be the correct answer. Okay, because you're starting at the opposite direction. You're saying length, so a dot length will be 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. And then every time you're looping, you're going back 2 times. You're not decrementing once. So you will start at 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. 7 minus 2 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. And 3 minus 2 is 1. And then it will stop. So that's the correct answer. And for the next one, trace the following code. What is the output? There is a Boolean flag, false. There's an empty array, integer array. You're starting at 1 while not flag. This means flag is either true or false. When you put not, it just makes the result opposite. So for example, if flag was true, not true will make it false. And if the flag was false, not true, false will make it true. So it just reverses the result. So initially the flag is false, so not false is true, so this condition becomes true, and then within the loop you are going to perform the same thing. The index is I, the index I is 1, and so at the first at the first index you're going to store 1. Okay, and you're checking if I is greater than a dot length. A dot length is 10. If it is greater than or equal to a dot length, change the flag to true. So right now I is 1. 1 is not greater than 1 is not greater than 10. So this will be skipped, and you will print the value a of I. A of I right now, a of 1 basically is 1. So you will print out 1, and let me just check. Okay, you'll print out 1, and then you will move to 2. I plus plus will move it to 2. So in the second index, you will store 2. Again, it's not, what is it called? It is not, the condition is false. 2 is not greater than 10. So it will keep repeating the loop. So it will skip this part. It will print 2 here, and then it will change to 3. Now the trick here is, because you have this equal to sign, there will be an error. I've explained this in the explanation video, that if you have any, let's say, in your conditions, if you're writing what in your loop condition, or in the condition within a loop, when you're writing the index or whatever the value you're using, if it's greater than or equal to the length, it will not it will have a system crash, because the length is the human count, so it will always be more than the last index. So if you were saying that there are 10 elements, the length will be 10, but you don't have the 10th index. The last index that is available is basically the 9th index. And so when you try to access an index that does not exist, what happens is it basically crashes. Okay, that is what you need to look for. In this case, again, we need to basically, whenever you get these code questions, to be honest, the first thing you should do is check the condition. Is it using the correct conditions? Because if the conditions are wrong, then it's not going to give you the correct result. Okay, so we know that it will start at 1. Okay, we know because I is 1, so it is going to print 1. It will not start from 0. But will it print everything else is the question. Will it print at the end out of bound? I mean, will it give you an exception of out of bounds, or will it give you a syntax error, or will it print everything correctly? In this case, it will give you out of bounds exception. Why? Because here you're saying that the index at some point should be equal to the length, which is not correct, because um, the length is always greater than the last index. Just keep that in mind. I know I kind of over explained this question, but just keep in mind whenever you get a tracer code question, you need to look if the conditions are correct. In this case, the condition is not correct, so at the end it will give you an exception, and one of the answers has an exception which is out of bounds. So this will be the correct answer. Why? Because we know it is starting at 1, and we know at the end it will give you an error because you're trying to access an index that does not exist. So that is the 6th question. The 7th question is explain the purpose of the method of the following method. Here what is happening is you have a method which is called check. It takes an integer array which is called I numbers, and there's a boolean called be valid which is set to true initially. You're looping through the array, okay, and you're not checking the last element. You're stopping at the second last index because you're saying it should be less than numbers dot length minus 1, and you're checking if numbers dot index, if the number stored at that index is greater than the number stored in the next index. So if the index was 0, the value that is stored at index 0, is it greater than or equal to the value that is stored at 0 plus 1, which is 1? If it is, then you make be valid as false, and then it keeps looping until the loop stops, and you return the value of be valid, which is either true or false. What this is doing is basically it is checking if the values are in descending order or not. Basically, this is an advanced question, I will admit, but here you're checking if the value stored at this position, if it is greater, then you're saying that please make please, how do I say this? Please change the value of the valid variable to false, and if it is, and that value will be returned later on. So basically it's checking if the values are in increasing order or not. So it should be stored as the first value should be small. I mean, the values in the beginning should be smaller than the values in the other elements. It will make more sense if I can draw it out for you, but it should be in increasing order. If the value stored at one index is greater than the value that is stored at the next index, then that means you're basically the state is changed to false. That means that is not acceptable. So the correct answer is it will check if the values are in increasing order. We're not sorting it, because if it was about sorting, then you will change the values at specific positions, right? In this case, we're not sorting it. And here we're just checking, we're just making sure if the values are in the increasing order or not. If, let's say, it was something like numbers of index is equal to something, like you're changing some values here and there, then we can call it a sort. But here it's not a sort, it's just checking, and there will be no syntax error, so that's wrong. Now the last one, it says explain the purpose of this method. Again, you're starting the loop at 1, and then loop is less than the length, you're incrementing it, if the current position if the value at the current position is less than the previously assigned value, change the value to the current value. Okay, basically what's happening here is you're trying to find um, the minimum value. Why? Because, okay, so here you have a variable to which you're assigning the zero index, whatever the value is. And then while you're looping, at every position, you're checking if the value that you already have, if it's greater than the value that is stored in the loop, just change the value in the val variable to the value you just found in the in the array, sorry. So whatever the array has in, if the value that is stored in the array at this point, if it is less than the value we found previously, then change the value to this particular value. Again, I will show this more in class. I'll draw it out on the board for you so you can understand it better. But this is how you would solve. I would just be concerned at this point with the coding questions. Don't worry a lot about the output questions, but you need to really understand how to code, how to write, how to create an array, how to access an array, how to change values, how to add values, how to print, how to read input in a loop, all of that. That is what I'm more focused and concerned about. But otherwise, these you can even put them in um, on NetBeans and figure out the answer. So I think that's it for this one. Maybe I can just finish attempt. Okay, all of them are correct. Oh, I didn't select the answer here. The correct answer would be the algorithm finds the minimum value in the array. That will be the correct answer. So that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. Try to work and practice on arrays as much as you can. Once you're done with the lab, once you've submitted the lab, try to do the practice version as well so you get more practice out of it. And yeah, I hope I hope you're able to do well in this half of the course. Just focus on this topic as much as you can. It is very important for the final exam as well. That is why I'm making a video for it this early. But yeah, all the very best and see you in the next one.